It's the beginning of the end on Critical Role as some familiar faces finally make an appearance. Vox Machina dominates Prime Video, and Hasbro fires more key D&D staffers despite huge profits again. Son of a bitch! Welcome to Fantasy News Friday on the Character Sheet. Today we're talking about the return of some fan favorites as Critical Role starts its endgame. The Wheel of Time gets its own card game, and Hasbro lays off the D&D staffer who helped them recover from the OGL disaster. But before we break all that down, please take a second to hit those like and subscribe buttons to help us keep these news videos coming. And now, let's dive into the news.
Compelling and rich.
The endgame is finally here on Critical Role, and Vox Machina have finally returned to be a part of it. We got to see Vox Machina return with a notable new addition in the second half of this latest episode, with everyone clearly loving going back to their iconic characters at the table. And joining the original cast is Robbie Daymond playing Serkonos, leader of the Fire Ashari, having gone from Dorian slutty shirts to Druid nipple rings with his new character.
You lay it on, anybody would say yes. Would you say yes?
No.
See?
We also got a lot of fun time with the Derolo kids, who all made appearances as their parents led Vox Machina off to war. A lot of this second half of the episode was dedicated to the group finally tracking down Scanlan, who appeared to be avoiding all attempts to locate him after what was apparently his third divorce from Pike, only for him to finally be located by scrying on his old band members. And it turns out that Scanlan has gone full midlife crisis, taking up a spice habit, growing out his hair and his beard, and instead of a sports car, he's instead true polymorphed himself and his band into purple centaurs. After convincing Scanlan to give up on his midlife crisis road trip to help them, the episode ended before we found out if Liam would return playing a new character in this Vox Machina arc, or if he simply would be waiting as Orbvax until he was hopefully freed at the Battle of the Malleus Key, which seems like it's kicking off starting next episode. In the first half, we had some typically wacky decisions by the combined Mighty Nine and Bell's Hells team, who finally made it into Ruidus proper to track down the Volition and coordinate before splitting off into their missions. Dorian kind of spilled the beans that they were looking to get the gods chased off or eaten by Predathos right in front of Ford and Caduceus, who are, both followers of the Wild Mother, so that could wind up being a major problem down the line. But they've also managed to waste a massive amount of spell slots after coming across the statue of Plane Rider Ren, and coming up with a huge distraction to finally undo her petrification. Sadly, they sort of forgot they were all still magically disguised as Rylorians, so Ren was depetrified, bleeding badly from their missing arm, surrounded by what appeared to be Rylorians, and she promptly freaked out and Dimension Doored away before they got anything out of her. The group never really got around to fully explaining what happened to her, but they did waste a lot of spell slots, along with their greater restoration and the healing it took to get Ren back. And only later, after meeting Gaz and realizing that they had to send the forces of Exandria into battle in the next hour or so to start their mission, did they realize that using up a bunch of spells in the process might not have been the best idea, since they may literally never have another long rest this campaign.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of these spells, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm using up all my spells just to talk to people.
But for now, the call for war has gone out, the battle has started, and we're looking at a couple episodes with each group following their own missions before what is likely to be one big in-game style finale where they all come together to save Exandria or watch it turn into something entirely different.
Oh shit, it's going down!
The Legend of Vox Machina also wrapped up this week, and it did so on a massive high note, as the show has been dominating Prime Video ever since it launched. For the last 2 weeks in a row, it has routinely been the most watched show on Prime Video, beating out The Rings of Power among other huge Amazon series to maintain its top spot. So it's no shock that with that kind of viewership and the great reviews the show's been receiving, that Amazon decided to announce they were officially renewing the show for a 4th season. As we mentioned in an earlier video, That fourth season may include little to no Taryon Darrington, as the Legend of Vox Machina seem to go straight into the one-year time leap as they embrace their full alternate timeline version of the story. But based on viewership, the fans seem to be along for that ride no matter what changes. And there's always ways for Matt and the cast to be creative to bring back Taryon if we want one more look at that sweet, sweet Darrington Brigade.
Terry, I think we should take advantage of your rules and maybe we should just call this a banishment!
The Wheel of Time is getting its own card game on Steam. Much like The Witcher got a standalone card game in Gwent, The Wheel of Time is getting a digital card game of its own called Cards of Eternity, which allows players to collect and trade cards based on characters from the classic fantasy series. In an added bonus, the game appears to be pulling its lore from the actual books and not the, shall we say, divisive Prime Video series. So that's a big relief for a lot of Robert Jordan fans. Details on the game itself are slim, besides the fact that it will include a 2v2 battle format, ways to trade cards with other players, and a gauntlet mode which the game claims is a unique format that will unlock prizes like additional cards. But we should have more details soon, as the game is due out before the end of 2024. Based on the little info we can see in the cards, this game appears to be closer to something like Magic the Gathering than Gwent, but we'll see how well the Cards of Eternity captures the essence of the Wheel of Time when it hits early access sometime in the very near future.
Patience, my friend.
The Grim Hollow Kickstarter for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is beginning its final week while closing in on the $700,000 mark in what has been a record-breaking year for crowdfunded TTRPGs. The Dark Fantasy supplement for D&D is fully compatible with the new 2024 rules and includes over 40 new subclasses, 100 new magic items, and a broken, godless world setting called Aetheris that evokes big Bloodborne or Dark Souls vibes. It also adds a brand new class, the Monster Hunter, which is an intelligence-based martial class, which is something we find incredibly interesting and useful as big Warlord fans from back in the 4th edition days. They've also got 12 different creatures your character can transform into if they are particularly unlucky, or in some rare cases, just lucky. This massive new 5e supplement from Ghostfire Games offers dark fantasy and horror fans a ton of options, with a player's guide, campaign guide, GM screen, and much, much more. So if you want a little more grimdark in your Dungeons & Dragons games, give Grim Hollow a look before their Kickstarter ends on November 1st.
But I want it now!
And finally, despite Wizards of the Coast being by far the most profitable branch of Hasbro, with over $500 million of earnings reported in the Q3 financial reports of Hasbro, they were still hit with another small wave of layoffs, including Dixon Dubois, the creator relations specialist who helped D&D move past their OGL 1.1 disaster last year. While Hasbro saw fit to pay out nearly $100 million in dividends to shareholders, apparently they still felt the need to slash a few jobs, including Dixon's, as the company continues to underperform in every other non-Wizards of the Coast branch of its business. This move has not only angered the creators who have worked with Dixon for years, and who trusted him as the voice of sanity and reason in a landscape where Hasbro kept forcing terrible decisions onto Wizards of the Coast and D&D, it has once again made fans question just what is behind the decision-making when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons and Hasbro. We wish Dixon nothing but the best, and we hope he finds a company who will appreciate his talents. And once again, we have to end another news segment with a self-inflicted PR disaster that Hasbro has dropped on Wizards of the Coast. That's all we have for Fantasy News Fridays this week. Let us know what your favorite story was in the comments section, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.